Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here. In today's video, we're taking a look at the GameSir X2 Bluetooth controller. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, GameSir sent me this X2 Bluetooth controller for a fair and honest review, and we're going to do exactly that. This controller is meant for Android and iOS devices. Looking at the back of the box here, there is something interesting. It says minimize delay wired connection born for esports. You can't really use this controller in wired mode considering it's made for Bluetooth and the design of it kind of covers the charging port for your phone. So I'm not quite sure what they mean by wired connection. It goes on to say Bluetooth connection supports iOS and Android, micro switch buttons with a 3 million stroke lifespan, classic ABXY button layout, soft rubber grips with a cozy hand feeling, and it supports Android phones with a max length of 173 millimeters, which is actually pretty big. When I first opened up the box, I was pleasantly surprised that they included a carrying case, and a well-built carrying case at that. This is a very nice touch. I kind of wish more companies did this. The corners of the case are well supported, so you don't have to worry about whatever you have in there being crushed. The zippers have little rubber GameSir logos on them. Opening up the case and we can see the GameSir X2, and there's also a little box here with accessories written on it. On the top part of the case is a little mesh area for storage. Inside the accessories box is a USB-C cable you can use to charge the device. This has the GameSir logo on it, but the cable is pretty short. I'm probably not going to use it. There's also an extended warranty for 6 months. A weird little quality control card just a little bit bigger than a guitar pick. Some stickers if you're into those. And some little rubber nubs to go on your control sticks. These are completely optional. Now taking a look at the X2 controller, it's a fully plastic design and it's pretty light in weight. On the bottom on one side you can see the USB-C port. The top features L1 and L2, R1 and R2 bumpers. On the right side of the controller we can see LED indicator lights. There's also the XYAB buttons, a control stick, a start button, as well as a turbo button. On the left side of the controller we have a G button, another control stick, a D-pad, and a screenshot button. Beside the USB-C charging port on the bottom we also have a home button. The back of the controller features nice textured rubber grips that feel good in your hand. The top of the joysticks have a pretty small nub. You can put a cover on these, but I don't necessarily recommend it. I tried out the joystick covers and I don't really like them. I like the feeling of just the joystick on its own. Plus the joystick covers come off pretty darn easy. I was really impressed with how smooth these joysticks feel. They glide really nice. There's no grinding and they feel pretty good. If you're curious, here are some Joy-Cons sitting directly beside the controller. You can see the layout is nearly identical. The joysticks though do look and feel considerably different. Stretching the controller out all the way and it's pretty easy to see how big of devices this thing will accommodate. It will accommodate pretty much any phone out there as well as probably a few tablets. But there is something to take note of here. The further this is stretched out, the less stable it is. If it's not stretched out very far at all, it's very stable, but as soon as it's hit its limits, it becomes very unstable. If you're curious about how big of a phone this controller will hold, it will hold an entire Nintendo Switch screen. It's not compatible with the Nintendo Switch, but I thought it would be a fun experiment just to see if it would fit, and it does. It pushes the controller to its limits, but it will fit an entire Nintendo Switch screen. Now, trying this controller out with a few different phones, and I did notice if your phone has a camera bump, you can only really insert it one way, and that's because the camera bump pushes the phone out of the holder. Here's a better shot to show you exactly what I mean. You can see the camera bump, it's kind of pushing the phone up a little bit outside of the holder. By flipping the phone around, all of the issues are resolved. This happened on a number of different phones, not just one, so pretty much any phone with a camera bump you have to put in this way. The quality of the buttons feel good, the quality of the shoulder buttons feel good, the quality of the joysticks feel good, and the D-pad actually feels good as well. You can't press down in the center of the D-pad, but you can pivot it around. It's a very good D-pad for a mobile controller. I wouldn't say this is as good as 8BitDo's D-pad, but it is good on its own and beats a lot of other controllers out there. When using the controller for an extended period of time, I did notice one minor flaw in the design, and that's with the position of the X and A buttons on the controller in relation to the joystick. I found my thumb hit the joystick quite often when I was trying to access those buttons. To resolve this issue, I could change how I hold the controller, but then it's uncomfortable and not really fun to use. This is a bit of an oversight, I think. I mean, if you have smaller hands, it might not be an issue, but for me, this did get in the way quite a bit. And if you're using the joystick nubs on this, it makes the problem even worse. If your phone has a chunky case, you might run into a few issues securing this down tightly, and that's because the grip is pretty shallow. Now, as for me, I didn't run into any issues with my phone slipping out, but if you are using a chunky case, just be careful because it can pop out of the controller pretty easily. This is a Galaxy S10 for reference. Here is a Google Pixel 5 for comparison. This is what it looks like with a fairly slim case. It fits a heck of a lot better. Pairing this controller was simple and straightforward. You power the controller on, you search for Bluetooth devices, and it should automatically pair once you select it. In terms of input latency, I found it to be almost the same as other Bluetooth controllers out there. For example, the 8BitDo Pro 2. The latency here is completely comparable. To compare controllers, I have Redream up and running right now, the Dreamcast emulator. I have the GameSir X2 paired in position 1, and I have the 8BitDo Pro 2 paired as player 2. I'm using two Bluetooth controllers at the same time on my phone. And here is a completely non-scientific attempt of using the buttons at the exact same time to show you that the input latency is nearly identical. Now let's go over what I liked and what I didn't like about the GameSir X2, and we'll start out with what I liked. First and foremost, I like the feel of this controller. It is pretty lightweight, it's completely made of plastic, but it doesn't feel cheap. The joysticks on this are very good. I quite like them in comparison with some other controllers on the market. The D-pad is also very good. It's not as good as the 8BitDo, but it is pretty good on its own. The buttons on this do feel good. The micro switches on the trigger buttons feel good, although one of them makes a little bit louder noise than the other. So this is the right side, and this is the left side. There's a little bit of a noise difference, but I didn't really notice any difference in game. Now, the final two things that I like about this controller: one, the Bluetooth connection is good. It's comparable with 8BitDo. Secondly here, the design of the phone holder integrated with the controller. The way this is designed, first and foremost, it's going to fit most phones out there and probably even a few tablets, but also it grips your phone on the end, so you don't really have to worry about your power and volume buttons getting crunched down. You don't have to worry about the position of those at all, and that's a really good thing. Now, moving on to things I didn't like about this controller. There are only a couple of them, but this first thing, this one is a big one. I did not like the position of the A and X button in relation to the joystick. Almost every single time I used the A button or the X button, my thumb hit that joystick, and it got very annoying very quickly. If I was playing a game that used the A and the X button heavily, then my thumb would be hitting that joystick quite often, and I wouldn't really want to play those games because it wasn't a very fun experience. Now, if you're playing a first-person shooter with this, and this controller works great for those, you don't really have to worry about that because you're mainly using the second joystick. You're not really using the A and X buttons very often at all, so that is something to consider. The second thing I didn't like about this controller was how shallow the end grips are. I kind of wish this was a little bit deeper here, and I kind of wish the grips extended over the phone just a little bit more to hold it a little bit more secure. Now let's take a look at the price. This controller is priced at $59.99, or sometimes you can get it for $50.99, like it's kind of on sale at the time of filming. This is very expensive for a Bluetooth controller. In comparison here, you can get the 8BitDo Pro 2, which is also compatible with the Nintendo Switch, for $49.99, and it's arguably a superior controller. Now, mind you, with the 8BitDo, you also have to purchase a separate phone holder that will run you $15, bringing your total to $65, which is $5 more expensive than the GameSir at full price. As for the battery life, the X2 says it has 20 hours of playable time, and for me, I didn't run into any issues with that. So now the question is, would I recommend the GameSir X2 at the price of $60 or the sale price at $51? My answer to this one is yes and no. No if you're looking for the best possible controller out there. I think the 8BitDo Pro 2 has this one beat. But yes, if you're looking for a kind of Nintendo Switch-like experience with your mobile device. If you play a lot of shooters on your phone like Fortnite or PUBG or Call of Duty or really anything like that, then this controller might be for you if you're looking for a quick and easy setup. At the end of the day here, provided you're not really using the X and A buttons that often, the GameSir X2 is not a bad option. But anyways, that is all I've got for today. Let me know your thoughts about the GameSir X2 in the comments below. Huge shout out to GameSir for providing this controller for a fair and honest review. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Thank you everyone, take care.